Good afternoon, dear delegates and participants. I, Mr. Sujit Kumar Patro, Assistant Professor RIPS, wholeheartedly welcome you to the third scientific session of the second day EFD on AI, Artificial Intelligence, on drug development. The topic is Recent Trends and Future Prospective, sponsored by AICTE-ATAL Academy, New Delhi, and organized by the RIPS Berhampur. Dear delegates, now we have with us our most respected resource person of this session, Dr. Mayur C. Ergeri sir. So before starting his eminent talk, it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Dr. Sir Ergeri sir to all of you. Dr. Mayur C. Ergeri sir is currently employed at SKVM's Narsimonji Institute of Management Study, Mumbai, as a professor and section head. He holds PhD in chemistry. Sir filed 2 patents and published more than 45 publications in international reputed journal with high impact factors. Sir got Boycast Award in 2007 from Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi, and has been as ICMR DHR Foreign Fellow in the year 2015 to 16. Dr. Ergeri sir also received the DST Young Scientist Award. Sir is the editorial member of the Cancer and Medicinal Chemistry Journal. Sir guided more than 40 MPhom and 6 PhD students till now. Dr. Mayur has been involved in the policy making with the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. Sir has been invited speaker all over the world to speak about drug resistance in cancer cells. So with this brief introduction, I again welcome Dr. Ergeri sir and thanking him for accepting our invitation. So now I would like to request Dr. Ergeri sir to come on the board and share his view and start his scientific talk on drug discovery in post-COVID era and use of AI in the drug discovery.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patra. So it was a nice introduction, and I would also thank the management and principal of Roland Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences for giving me this opportunity. So this, today I was not keeping well, but since I made a commitment, so I thought I will give it from my home itself because suddenly today I was not keeping well. So I'll yeah.
Sir, you are not audible.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I think I should come in front, I think, a bit.
Sir, you share your screen, sir. No problem.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, very clear, sir. Continue.
Okay, so thank you very much for this introduction, and so I will try to live up to the expectations. So, I'm going to talk about this, and then I will finally end up with what is AI going to do with this drug discovery process. So, with this, I want to start in the post-COVID era. The drug discovery has taken a different turn. So I remember a few years ago, students were reluctant to take medicinal chemistry masters. I have seen in B.Pharm students reluctant to learn the structures and were not so enthusiastic to learn about pharmaceutical chemistry and medicinal chemistry. But in the last 1 year, there has been a drastic change in the students because they have realized that there are a lot of softwares available online, and where the students can play with these softwares and work and talk about drug discovery process. So what has happened in the last few months now? I remember because I have seen the life in Europe and here. Suddenly, I see a lot of demand for medicinal chemists in Europe and US. The reason uh, I didn't I didn't think why it was, but over a period of time, I realized that this demand may be coming because the drugs that are being used right now may not be as effective as they were before the pre-COVID era. Especially people who have recovered from COVID are having huge uh, problems, especially in the post-recovery period. So what I feel is now suddenly the pharma companies realized that we should now go for newer drugs. So they have started working on new drugs and making more powerful drugs so that they can be effective in the post-COVID treatment process. See, if you see any post-recovered patient of COVID, so there are a lot of problems that are seen, and major two problems that are seen are one is neurological disorders, and the other one that is seen is the cardiovascular issues. So the presently available drugs maybe are not meeting the what you call the needs of the patients, you know. So that's why I think maybe the Western pharmaceutical companies thought that we maybe have to start discovering these new drugs. So I see a huge potential in this. And I also see a lot of potential now among the students, as well as master students, as well as PhD students, that they have to do the course of medicinal chemistry either at graduate, postgraduate, and PhD. So, as I suggested, so this has prompted a huge demand for medicinal chemistry scientists. So, you all know that we are the generic capital of the world, and India supplies 40% of the American generic drug requirement, and other 25% of the drug is also given to exported to UK. So what is happening here is, so we are able to export a lot of different kind of drugs in generic form to the biggest economies of the world. One is US and the other one is UK. So what is happening here? So we have been like labeled as the generic capital. So where did the innovation for drug discovery go? So we are not innovating. That's the major problem. So what is happening here is, so the Indian pharmaceutical sector also fulfills half of the total global demand for vaccines. So what is happening here is, Serum Institute is one of the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. So now they are into a huge, meeting the demand of Covishield. So you go to Europe, you go to Africa, Serum Institute has these vaccine manufacturing companies all over, spread over in Europe and Africa. So all these things, India having so many pharma companies, we have such a huge drug manufacturing facilities, and in spite of large pool of scientists, researchers working in the labs, but when it comes to discovery of new molecules, somewhere we are lacking in this. The reasons known or unknown, but the same scientists when they go abroad, they discover a lot of drugs. And one such person I can remember and take name is Elapragada Subbarao, who was not a chemist, but who had a LMS degree, and he took his degree in Chennai, and then he moved to US in the 1940s, and then he went to US and discovered a lot of drugs, starting from folic acid, methotrexate, then aureomycin, and tetracycline. Then he discovered uh, another drug. I forgot, so I will get back when I remember. So many drugs he discovered, but he didn't get the Nobel Prize. But his other colleagues got it, and he worked for a pharma company called Lederle. And this is how an Indian could discover so many drugs in 40s. And he didn't live long also, because he passed away in his 40s. He was only 40 when he passed away, 40 to 43. But what I'm suggesting is there has been a capability of discovering new drugs across the world, but it is not happening to the requirement. So coming to drug discovery scenario, see, nowadays to launch a molecule, it takes almost 10 years, I feel. And also it's a long-term commitment. And we have seen that Indian companies have been not huge investors in R&D, because they don't take that high risk and high costs involved in this. See, drug discovery is a very, what I can say is a concocted effort of more than $1 billion for a molecule. So that kind of risk we don't have, and we have not taken those kind of steps to discover drugs in this country. So I think sooner or later maybe we have to, because the drugs that are discovered abroad, when they are sold in our country, become very expensive and they are unaffordable to our people. The major problem that is seen here is there is no trust between industry and academia, because if you go to any European or US countries, what will happen is usually a pharma company, if it wants to initiate any kind of discovery process, what it will do is it will look at the nearest academic institution and the chemists who are involved there, and usually they give these projects to them, and then the initiation starts. After that, they spread to other places, because sometimes you need those expertise, and then you will uh, go for this discovery process. But in India, there is a lack of trust. This has been a major problem in our country. So in spite of India having so many scientists, biotechnologists, so India's pharma sector is not able to crack the drug discovery puzzle. The reasons unknown. Uh, but the same thing I was saying. It's like the same people, when they go abroad, they get involved and they are in a series of discovery process. And also, the drug discovery process is a very committed thing, and Indian investors, especially in pharma, are being always low investors, and there are very high risk and high costs involved in this. So this is where we are lacking actually. So Indian scientists, what they are doing, usually they are manufacturing API and bulk drugs, like you go across the country we have so many API manufacturing and bulk drug manufacturers. And what I have seen is they manufacture a number of APIs. Initially, there was a process patent. India used to copy those drugs, and they used to use different methods of synthesis and beat the patent, and then they used to uh, manufacture these drugs, bulk drugs. But let me tell you, but bulk drugs manufacturing and API also it costs, and it creates environmental pollution. So that's why most of these plants, if they are working in the West, they have to undergo a lot of what you call environmental norms they have to follow, and the cost of those drugs becomes very expensive, and they can get unaffordable. But what happens, they manufacture in China, India, and some other Southeast Asian countries where there are not so much stringent environmental norms, and usually they are manufactured here. And what if we have seen also that Indian scientists always go abroad. I mean, I went abroad and I came back, but many of them, they don't come back. So this has been one of the major problem, because they are trained here, but they don't want to work here. They go abroad, and of course, they work serious research and do discover a lot of drugs. So there has been a mistrust between industry and academia in India, and this has been a big hurdle actually. So when there is such hurdle in discovering process, so naturally it hits the economy in different ways. Now, for example, there have been certain drugs which were marketed in the West, which created a revenue of billions of dollars for the company and for the government, because they also pay a lot of taxes to the government. So this process, if it happens in our country, so naturally our country also will get a lot of taxes. So it is a win-win situation, but this process has to happen. If you take China, see, China in the last 20 years has taken a drastic turn in its manufacturing process, and always China has been in the forefront in manufacturing cheap drugs actually. They do all sorts of cost-cutting exercises, and for any company across the world to compete with them becomes difficult. So, but China has also emerged as one of the biggest drug discovery market, because in the last few years, they are able to launch 10% of the new drugs that are in the market in the world. So what has happened is China is soon catching up with the Western world, with Europe and US-based pharma companies in drug discovery market. And this can become a real threat to everyone. It's not like it's going to affect only certain countries. It's going to affect everyone, because China has the ability to manufacture any kind of product at a very cheap cost. So when this happens, all the investments returns may get affected in this process. So what is happening here is this can be an alarm to most of the drug discovery countries actually, where a lot of pharma companies are based in discovering newer molecules. So what has happened also is the drug discovery, it also requires a multi-dimensional effort actually, and the support has to come from the government as well as from the industry. So when these both processes complement each other, then everything will go in a very planned and on a very good platform. So, but in the recent past, government has started supporting the uh, drug discovery process in this country, and we have our own Ministry of Pharmaceuticals, and Commerce, and there is the Ministry of Science and Technology, which is supporting the discovery of newer drugs. But still, uh, the amount of money that has to be spent on the discovery market is not up to the mark. So that's why there is a lack of this in this process. If you see, I'll tell you the example of. Uh, I'm giving a typical example in India. So there are a lot of CSR institutes. There are a lot of government institutes which are in this process. But what is happening and what is lacking is um, there is no serious funding happening. Like you take a bunch of scientists who are able to work in a area, and then after working, these people will discover a molecule, and then it will come into the market. So but in the post-COVID era, what I have seen is the drug discovery process, which was taking 10 years, I think is due to the advent of AI and all these aspects. You can see that there has been a lot of measures where government has helped in releasing the vaccines at a very faster rate. So I think they have cut a lot of clinical studies, and now they have realized that unnecessary uh, giving blocks for the discovery of drugs can be helped in this process. So now what is happening, Department of Pharmaceuticals is planning a drug discovery R&D market, I mean R&D center for that. So they will coordinate, and a huge effort will be made in commercially viable new molecules which can be released to the market and for the welfare of the people at the earliest. So this is all like cost cutting measures, because vaccines came within a year, not even a year, like almost like 6-7 months. The vaccines were already being used on the patients. So after 30-40,000 patients studies in the third phase, the fourth phase was launched very fast. So imagine they could do it within 7 months, uh, discovering a vaccine, completing the initial animal studies, and then the human clinical trials, and within 7-8 months the vaccines were available for people's, and that's how we are able to use so many vaccines being used now. So there is an effort being made to cut down these unnecessary hurdles in innovations and drug discovery, and so that these drugs can be, which are discovered and have the potential of a therapeutic use, could be put into the patient's use at the earliest. So that, as I was saying, that due to this COVID-19 outbreak, so a lot of things have come down. But government, which wanted to invest in a lot of things, has held back so much of funds, because lack of funds, because of the COVID situation, because uh, government is not able to collect all the revenue that they were used to before, and there has been a huge stress on the finances, I mean, not only in our country, across the world. So this has created a bit of hurdles, because I think the investments may come maybe once the COVID stabilizes and recovery process is stabilized. So then government, if they are able to collect all the revenue that was budgeted, so then they can easily invest in these kind of ventures easily, and we can do it further. See, last year our Prime Minister launched a Atmanirbhar aspect, because we have to be self-sufficient. So self-sufficient is a good option, but but we have our own shortcomings. But how to overcome those shortcomings will be a huge challenge for us. So what we are trying to do is we will be able to uh, overcome this once the budgetary aspects are met actually. So one such way to increase the drug discovery in this country is sending PhD students abroad, get trained. They know how the drug discovery process, testing, all the usage of softwares. So where they can spend 3 to 4 years with the PI, and then they should come back. If they don't come back, then all the resources that were used in training the student will be of no use. There is another way to look at, send the students only for 6 months, and then maybe another 6 months after 1 year. So there is a effort that the students and the researchers who are involved in such process come back always. The main issue that I have seen is we in this country is because the country is huge. There are a number of institutes. There's a lack of a lot of research infrastructure, so that we lack. And I hope in the coming years those things will be taken care of. And here you have to remember that you have to make a huge financial investment in these aspects, because if you don't invest money and it's basically like this, you invest and take the benefit of it. You can't get a benefit without investing. It's not, nothing comes free. So there are a lot of ways to do these things. The government is doing, but the amount of people getting this opportunity is very less, because when you look at the number of people who are applying for these fellowships, it's a lot of students are applying. And initially we may start with 1,000 a year. China started like this about 15-20 years ago. That's how they are reaping the benefit out of it. So many people went abroad, they got trained in this, and most of them came back. The one who came back, though, they are all heading a lot of big labs in the universities in China, and they are churning the research industry there, and being contributing huge to the uh, to the discovery market, and they are able to give back a lot of funds as well as discovery of molecules to the public of China. So this, I think, if we are able to emulate, I think it works very well. But the mechanism should be that the students who go there have to come back and start this kind of research in the country. So what has to be done in this is, I think we have to give more effort on innovations, because I have seen most of those, we are publishing a lot of papers now. After US, China, we are the highest publishers in scientific journals across the world. But when we publish these things, it has to reach the benefit. But if you take in the West and in China, they are more stressing on innovations, and they want to commercialize these innovations, and they hold the IP rights. So once the innovation process, everything is done. So IP and commercialization are two aspects which has to be addressed. If you don't address this, all the discovery innovation will go for a toss. So new drug discovery against different diseases is going to be a huge market. So recently I was discussing with our director that I think the pharma companies in the West have started investing a lot in this market, because of which they are spending a lot of money to discover newer potent molecules with lesser side effects in this post-COVID era situation. Otherwise, there was no business for pharma companies to invest so much money in R&D actually. So every company is now working day and night to discover new drugs, and also they are trying to discover drugs to fight COVID-19. So this is going to be a huge challenge because it will take some more years for that. I mean, one thing you have to remember, when you discover a drug, it earns a lot of foreign exchange for that country. Let it be any drug, in any part of the world. So when the drug is discovered, and then they start marketing, and then they start exporting, so that money, that gives a lot of leverage to those nations. So we also earn a lot of foreign exchange in this because we export a lot of generic drugs, but the revenue is very small. Like for example, some of the newer drugs, like cancer drugs, uh, they are discovered there, but when they are marketed here, a strip of 10 tablets costs 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 50,000. You know, so these are unaffordable to our patients. So what will you do? How will you bring in such kind of drugs into a market, where more than 50% of the people are living below poverty line? So it becomes unaffordable. So that's why we should discover drugs in our own country and manufacture. Now, for example, if you see the vaccines which are manufactured in our country, so if you see Covishield, they're selling for $3, and Covaxin for another $4. But the same thing when they go abroad, so they become 10 times expensive because the companies want to make profits. But if you take vaccines like Moderna, Pfizer, so they're costing like 10, 15, $20 per vaccine dose. So what I'm saying is this process brings in a lot of revenue and money for the company and for the country. So if we are able to discover these new things, new drugs, new vaccines, so they will bring in a lot of foreign exchange into the country, and it helps a lot in the development of the country. So that's what it is about. So it's easy to talk, and we easy to give suggestions. Am I right? Now, for example, we have asked government if it can give 10,000 crores, 1,000 crores every year for the next 10 years. Right now, it's not possible. But maybe after 2 years, this should happen. Then the market will take a new leap in drug discovery. So, making a trend of clusters where you can bring academia, India, foreign universities. They all can change this drug discovery scenario in our country. If all these people come together, of course, if the West pharma companies come and invest a lot in R&D here in India, but there is a problem of trained people. Now, for example, they are available in abundance in the West, but the technology and the technique who are trained in these aspects, those kind of people are not available in our country, and not many people want to come back from there. So this is one such lacking we have. So when you do this academia, industry, and all these aspects, in foreign universities and the companies, and divide the work, what will be the work of academia, what will be the industry, and what will be the foreign university. And if that works in tandem, it can work. It's not that it can't work. And this is one possibility. So, and we should not think of manufacturing cheap drugs and selling it abroad, because quality always matters. When quality matters, we prosper actually. Now, initially, if we start with 5 to 10 drugs, no, so then we will be in a different league for discovering newer drugs, and then we will become a fully self-sufficient for discovering newer drugs in this country. So if you start investing 1000 crores every year from this year, so results will come only after 10 years. Results will not come immediately. But after 10 years, imagine every year we are churning out 3-4 new drugs. The 3-4 new drugs bring in a revenue of 2 to 10 billion dollars. So it's like that. So invest 10,000 crores and then make another 10 lakh crores. So something like that it is. So that is the biggest challenge. So invest, bring in together, bring people together, and give them that resources and the aspect, and it takes case. Sorry. I did something. Sorry, I'll. Okay. So now I'll come to the actual aspect, what is going to happen. Now, in the present scenario, the AI-based drug discovery has taken a different turn in the last 1 year. See, people used to talk about AI discovery, drug discovery, but they were not ready to take that risk and give that kind of information that was needed actually. See how many software. So I'll give you an example of Schrodinger. I remember Schrodinger, which came about 15-20 years ago. We were all using it, but we were also talking. I mean, like there is no new molecule through Schrodinger. So now, after so many years, in the last 5-6 years, Schrodinger is able to introduce a lot of drugs into the market using because they were all discovered in the lab of Schrodinger's lab, because they were able to cut down the number of moieties that has to be NCs to be synthesized. So imagine synthesizing 10,000 molecules, screening. I mean, like it will take 10 years. See, if that software is able to bring down the molecules to about 500, and then then you synthesize and start screening, and then it will really cut the cost. Schrodinger was a company where Bill Gates invested 20 years ago. Last year, the company went public, and it was quoting 20 at that time. In last year January, it was $35. Now it is somewhere between $67 to $70. So it's doubled almost in a year. So what I'm saying is, now a lot of companies are using AI-based softwares, machine learning softwares, to cut down the number of molecules which can be a hit in future for a particular disease. So this has created a lot of buzz. Now everybody is talking about it, and I think we have a good number of software people to work in these aspects, because recently, few days ago, our Viacom chief Kiran Majumdar Shah was saying the future is computational biology. So computational biology is what? It's about drug discoveries, basically. And since computers will be used to discover these newer moieties and newer molecules in the coming years, there'll be more of futuristic technologies, imaginations, advanced techniques that will be evolved and used to discover newer drugs. So what will happen? Can we predict the future diseases? I don't know. Moore's law was done that way because when what type of computers will come, maybe we should also do the predictive modeling. What are the future diseases? We never expect COVID would come. And usually a pandemic lasts thousand days. So only they are saying we may be free of it by next year, December. So what I'm saying is the drugs that are coming for future diseases are going to be a huge market. And if we are able to predict what kind of diseases are going to come in future and start thinking AI-based drugs kept ready based on the modeling aspects, maybe we can cut down certain things. But we can't introduce drugs in 1 year, 2 years. It will be very, very difficult. There are going to be a lot of challenges in those things, but scientists are working. They are trying to write the algorithms, try to have a very good predictive modeling. And if your predictive model is good, so your prediction will be very good. So that should take care of certain things. Next is the climate change and diseases. You know, the whole world climate has gone for a toss. The Arctic, Antarctica is melting. So when the ice melts, it gives water. If water that is in the ocean, where does it go? It can't go anywhere. It's what is happening. The ocean level goes on increasing. They are saying after 20-25 years, Maldives will not exist. Maybe now, today I saw that even in Mumbai, after 2080, so they are predicting that we will be underwater. So we'll be walking and traveling in water. So this is going to be a huge problem. So we have to be very careful with this. Otherwise, of course, nature has its own way of repairing and fixing things, but not at a cost where our future generation will pay a heavy price. And also we should build models, predictive models to combat new diseases. Like we never expected COVID-19 virus, am I right? It's a new virus. It's a coronavirus, but it has mutated so badly. To control it has become a hell of a problem. And now we are looking at the third wave, and I don't know what third wave is going to bring to us. So we have to have this artificial based kind of modeling where we are able to predict the diseases that are going to come in the future. It's possible, but it's difficult. This is going to be a huge challenge for people who have to do this. So one more thing, can we keep future vaccines ready? I don't know. That's what I said. If you can predict the disease, vaccines can be ready. If you can't predict the disease, how do you make a vaccine? So the Covishield, which you are using, see, this vaccine was being developed in Oxford University for a long time. Maybe since 5-6 years. Only when it stuck, they started testing it at a very faster rate so that it could be in the market by December. So this is possible, but you know, Astra had invested in a coronavirus project with Oxford, and they were trying to find this. So this is one another way of predicting using AI-based model. And then there is demand for medicinal chemists. Medicinal chemist demand is going to be huge in coming years. So it's going to create a lot of demand for them. And medicinal chemists are going to be in huge demand. I have already told you that it has created a lot of buzz, and a lot of companies across the world are hiring new medicinal chemists because they are looking at different drugs for new post-COVID-19 complications. So how to treat these kind of diseases is going to be a huge challenge. And if this is the post-COVID situation, I think the syllabus what we are teaching and reading now has to change also, because uh, we have to look at diseases and the drugs in a different direction and mode now. So that is going to be a huge challenge, because this is not in you and my hands. This is in the hands of policymakers, because they have to sit and analyze these issues. So next comes, are these medicinal chemistry teachers and researchers, are they future ready? Are they ready to check the future, what is coming, what is not coming, So are they able to predict the things, what are happening, what is going to happen, and what is not going to happen? So if we are taking care of these things, then we can take care of so many things. But one thing is sure, we will really need a newer kind of drugs in treating post-COVID complications. The present drugs that are being used are not going to be so effective as they were in the pre-COVID scenario, because this in the post-COVID complications, the whole behavior pattern of these molecules uh, has changed, because the body system has changed inside. So naturally, how they work, where they work, what they do, and all is going to be a huge challenge in this aspect. So it's a good opportunity, but also we are all going through the stress of contracting the disease, and once we contract, we don't know what is going to happen. And after this, if we are able to survive and lead a comfortable life would be different. But if not, it's going to be a huge burden and challenge to all our people surrounding us. So it's a good opportunity. So let us look it as a good opportunity, especially in our field, and let us look how we can use these models, techniques, innovations, and how we can improvise, cut down the clinical studies. In AI-based models, toxicology studies, so many things can be done on the computer by cutting the cost. But only thing is, the results that are obtained on the computer and the on the animals and humans, it should match. If not, it's of no use to us. Okay. So this was 1 hour presentation I had made for my friends, so that I can also interact, so that I can be more give more information based on your kind of doubts. So thank you. So I'm open for questions. So there are so many comments. If I speak more, it will be boring because sitting in front of the screen is a very
Sir, it
big
was very
challenge.
interesting actually. It was very interesting, sir, and informative also. It will be very useful for the participants. So you have started from the drug discovery and how it will be applicable for different fields. So I am very proud, sir. We are from medicinal chemistry background, so we can apply this new technology in our research also, sir.
Yeah. So I'm open for any questions the participants want to ask,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so can we apply AI to drug design? Yes, you can apply. There are a lot of softwares available for this. If you go to the Google and you can Google, you find a lot of softwares, and there are also some visual, these smart things. Some people sit and imagine drugs. I've seen some people doing it, so there are possibilities, but a lot of companies are spending a lot of money on these aspects. So you can do it. There are a lot of software. Just Google it. You can do it. There are a lot of open source softwares which can help you to do this. Even IIT Delhi Bioinformatics department has a lot of softwares which are open access, so you can use them. But AI is a machine learning basis. I think you may need a bit of basics of Python to learn these aspects. So many people learn Python. I mean, it doesn't mean that pharmacists don't learn Python. They are learn Python and they are trying to use it. One of my colleague uses it. So all these aspects are possible, and there are some beautiful YouTube videos. If you Google them, you can find it. What is the present scenario of export for new drugs? See, we have been a generic market for the longest time. So the formulations that are manufactured here are basically cheaper. You also know that pharmacies are not paid well here. So it is coming at that cost, cheaper drugs. So this has to change somewhere. So we get uh, good quality products, and also they are paid well so that we can compete globally. Um, yeah, it is possible to predict the viruses because that's what I said. You call it as predictive modeling. If you do the predictive modeling, you can do it actually. It's possible. See, these are all available aspects, but you have to spend your time, learn things. Okay, it's not like we can learn these things in one lecture and we can do it. There are a lot of softwares available. Autodoc is a very important and open source software that is used. Anybody can use that Autodoc. Very widely used. It is developed by Scripps Research Institute in US, and it's been very widely used across the world. Because Schrodinger is a bit expensive, so Autodoc is cheap and free. Sorry, it's freely accessible. Okay, how do you do drug design? See, in YouTube, the Schrodinger has some videos. So look at those videos. See, most of the things can be self-learned. You don't need to depend on anyone. And most of these softwares are user-friendly. So you can always look at it. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't need teachers. Some of the courses in Schrodinger are expensive, but there are some lectures available on YouTube where we can sit and self-learn. Most of my students who use this are self-learned. We have never sent them for any training or anything. They have taken the software, they have sat with somebody who has used it before, and doing it, and they do it continuously. Yeah, repurposing is a good opportunity, but it has its limitations. So repurposing has evolved. Now we have certain drugs which are being repurposed for various diseases, and I hope that using AI models, maybe repurposing becomes very easy. That's one thing I'm thinking.
Thank you, sir, once again for clarifying the doubts of our participants. So I think they will be very beneficial from your speech. So this, sir, you can proceed.
Okay.
Unmute yourself, sir. Sujit, sir.
Okay.
Sujit, sir, unmute.
So, sir, thank you, sir. May I know? Unmute. Already unmute.
You have to unmute, I think.
Sorry for interruptions. So may I invite our beloved principal, sir, to felicitate our eminent speaker with our e-certificates for a token of love and appreciations. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mayur, sir.
Thank you, sir. Kumar sir is calling for giving me this opportunity. We have heard of your institute for the longest time. So I had this opportunity to come virtually on this, and I should really thank you and your management for giving me this opportunity.
Once the COVID is over, please come and visit our institute, sir. We'll call you for some.
I have come
examination
3 times to Bhubaneswar because I used to come for the incubation center there. So in the kit, but I have never come to your side.
So please inform us, sir.
Yes,
for you to come to Pune. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable information.
Thank you, sir.
About artificial intelligence and drug design. Even though you are not feeling well, it's just
I had made a commitment to Sahu. I said I will, because otherwise I would have sat in the college and given. But today I keeping well.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe I would have got more ideas.
Yes. So, sir, in future also any collaborations we can make both institutes.
Definitely, I am the person who is ready to collaborate with anyone for any aspect. Especially my area has been cancer research, so please be open to it.
Okay, thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
So, dear participants, today we are at the end of the session 3. So, feedback link will be provided to your registered email ID and also WhatsApp number. So, please go through that and submit before time. And tomorrow again at 11 o'clock, we'll start the session 1 of day 3. Thank you all for your patience hearing and patience learning. Thank you all.